like a woman. Don't treat me like a man. Don't treat me like you know me. Treat me for just who and what I am.
What's going on, everyone? You probably don't know who I am if you're watching this for the first time. If you do go to my site on a frequent basis, maybe you do watch my my segments that I do. I do a video blog called Ask the Sarge, and weekly I talk about various subjects pertaining to fitness and nutrition and really the well-being of our minds in the process and the journey. But I'm not on here today for that. I'm on here today to talk about my relationship or connection with the well-known, world-famous, and recently, sadly, passed away Joanie, aka Chyna, Joanie Laurer. I have been very apprehensive about doing a video on it. Now, over the last like 10, 15 or so years, there's been some magazine articles with myself being mentioned, and in her book she mentioned me, and it's just been there's been a few things. If you do a Google search, if you type in my name with hers, you'll see it says that I was her first boyfriend and trainer and so on. But before she was Chyna, the person that we all know quite unequivocally being the most influential woman in professional wrestling, the woman who made as we all know, it can't be denied, Joanie made a huge impact in world wrestling and on the not only on a respectable dynamic of women in wrestling, but as far as wrestling in general, she brought to professional wrestling something that we all have never seen. Now we've heard all this last like 3 or 4 weeks in social media, all the tributes, all the beautiful things people have said. It's, I was actually very, very surprised at the level of impact that she made on so many people's lives. I knew it was a lot, but it's quite overwhelming, to be honest. And people want to know more about her because they're basing it the impact that was done on them on the person that they knew in the media, in the limelight, on TV, and in particular movies and TV shows. She touched them in so many ways, but no one really knows her before all that. And before all that, going back to about 18 years ago, it was quite different. I mean, I knew Joanie before anybody knew the person that they know now on TV, or sadly the media that we all have been seeing. So I'm gonna try to not be so lengthy on this video, because I could literally be on here for days. I could be on here for months talking about the 2 years that I was involved with Joanie before she became famous. Literally leading up until the day that she got in her car and drove to the Songus Arena for her first appearance. I lived right up the we lived right up the street. It was literally that fast of a situation where it was a heavy, very involved, emotional and professional. It started out professional, and then it evolved into a relationship, literally leading up until the minute she went in, and then it was all up from there. So before all that, she was just a regular, goofy 5'10" redhead girl who was an aerobics instructor of all things, and she sold beepers. Back before we had cell phones, she was a beeper saleswoman, and the best in the region for that matter. Whatever she did, she was great at. So I'm gonna just give you I'm gonna give you the quick. I'm gonna break it down and not go into the relationship end of the situation between me and her, and I'm just gonna break it down how motivated she was leading up until the time she went in. Which I'm telling you right now, in the amazingly concentrated 2 years before she became famous, from the minute I met her, from the minute me and her met up, and until literally the day she drove to that first event, she did so much to get to just to get in, that no one even knew about, that I could probably almost say that in the 2 years before she went in was equal to the 18 years that she accomplished going forward. She put more hard work in before she went in, when she went in, quite obviously it all blew up and things became amazing. But I'm going to just tell you right now, I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to just tell you like this. I right now, I'm a full-time personal trainer. I've been doing this for like 30 years. This video isn't about me, but I'm just saying this is how we first met. Joanie was an aerobics instructor up in a gym in New Hampshire. An amazing aerobics instructor, and everyone loved her. I mean, people were drawn to her even back then. The girl didn't even realize what an impact she was going to make on people even back then. She asked my friend if he knew of anybody that could help her prepare for her first fitness contest. Now, at the time, in the fitness industry, in the competitive industry, we only had women's bodybuilding and fitness. And obviously in men, we have just bodybuilding. Now, it's overrun with ridiculous amounts of categories, and that's just another story. So she wanted to do a fitness contest. The fitness contest is basically a beauty pageant with women who are extremely fit, and it incorporates some physical attributes such as like gymnastics type moves and strength moves and so on, and it's all put together in a very beautiful way with music, and it's like Miss America on crack. So she wanted to do one of those, and she needed someone to help her. Now at the time, and for the last 30 years, even up until last week, I contest prep people. I've been doing it for a long time in addition to being a trainer. So my friend Ted was the manager of the gym she worked at, and he called me up, actually called the gym that I work out at up and said, can you please have Jerry call me? I have a client that needs some help, a friend that needs some help. Back then, we didn't have cell phones. I had to actually use the gym phone to call him back when I got to the gym. So I got to the gym that day. I got the message. I gave him a call. He told me about Joanie. So I got her phone number, and I, of course, called her. We set up the time, and we met, and we discussed what we were going to do and how we were going to prepare for the competition. So again, I could go into detail about from that day forward, and how it evolved into a particular serious relationship, and how we were inseparable, and how we, all those things that you know in a relationship. And I could go on in great detail, and believe me, it was pretty amazing. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just tell you what she did in the span of 2 years, in a physical standpoint, to get to where she was, just to get the shot, the opportunity and chance of becoming in the WWF and hooking up with Paul, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Triple H, and getting that opportunity. And you know the story from there, all right? So we initially did the contest that we initially set up. She won her first contest, no surprise. She rocked it her first time, and she won. We prepared for a couple more along the way. In the process of preparing for a couple of more, because she said, Jerry, I want to be bigger, I want to look better, I want to be bigger, I want to stand out. We accomplished those things. She ended up doing extremely well. But not only that, while we were preparing for those competitions, in the process of that, she all of a sudden now, in addition to preparing for these contests, decides that she wants to be a firewoman. She goes, Jerry, I'm going to be a fire. I want to be a firewoman for my career. I don't want to sell beepers anymore. At this particular time now, there was no even a thought about wrestling. There was nothing of the sort. She didn't even know what she wanted to do. She was not happy where she was in her current job, even though she was the top salesperson in the region. She was everything she did, which she was amazing at. But she didn't see that as something, of course, as a long-standing thing for the future. So she decides she wants to be a firewoman. So she has to now prepare physically for the New Hampshire Firefighters exam, which is, if you're not familiar with it, is one of the most grueling and physical exams you have to pass, in addition to the academic end of things. Which, I'll just tell you this, part of it involves you getting on a step mill with 75 pounds on your back and stepping away for 5 minutes not touching, in addition to a million other things she has to do. So she has to physically prepare herself for this physical exam, get her workouts in, get her cardio in, preparing for the competitions we're all still preparing for. So she's incorporated now on a daily basis, walking on a step mill for 30 minutes at a time with 80 pounds on her back. Our workouts were extremely grueling and crazy. I was throwing every methodology I could figure out, tweaking her diet on a daily basis to improve her on a daily basis, and so on and so forth. So now she's got that going on. So cut forward ahead. We do another show. She does really good. She takes the physical fitness exam for the New Hampshire Firefighters and passes. And she literally told me that it was literally the most physically challenging thing she's ever done in her life. It was she almost passed out in the process, but she passed. But in the process of that, she realized there was other things involved to become a firefighter. She had to get particular credits, and she had to get accepted into a department, of course. And there's a lot of logistics involved, and it just was too lengthy, and she didn't have the time to devote to that. So she decides, I don't know what I'm going to do now. I wanted to be a firewoman, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know what I'm going to do. So we move forward. We continue working out. She decides now. She joins a belly dancing group to help her with her part of her routine for the fitness competitions, and starts going to a gymnastics school to learn gymnastics for the acrobatic aspect of things in the competitions. So she's going to that on a daily or every other day basis. She's going to belly dancing pretty much every other day. We're working out every single day. She was preparing for the physical exam for the firefighters, but so she's continued to still do the step mill thing with the 80-pound back thing on her back, just because it's tough. Now she decides she's going to start boxing. She's going to a professional boxing school in Lawrence, Massachusetts. There's a well-known boxing coach, Mel is his name, and Mel took her under his wing and started to help prepare her to legitimately box. So now she's going to boxing for hours at a time, and legitimate boxing, like in the ring, getting cracked in the face, sparring with real people. And I was just taken back by the amount of determination this woman had. So now during all that, one day, her sister and Joanie and I decide to go to a wrestling match up in Malden, Massachusetts. It was in a VFW, and there was some big name wrestlers that were going to be in there and on the card. And it was pretty cool. I'd never been to a wrestling match before, so we decided to go to that. We all dressed up. Joanie and her sister love dressing up, so they dressed up all crazy. And me, I was just a meatball, and I dressed up like myself. And we went to this wrestling thing, and it was pretty cool. There were some big name people, and in the process of the match, her sister overheard them mention Killer Kowalski. He had a school of wrestling in Malden, Mass. And so on our drive home that night, she mentioned it to Joanie. She said, that might be pretty cool. I might want to try that. So she decides the next day, well, why wait, right? So she decides, let's drive down to Malden and let's see what it's all about. So we drive all the way down to Malden from, we were living up in southern New Hampshire, and we barely found the place. It's in this old building in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Malden. And we find it, and it's old building. You walk up these crickety old concrete steps, and it was in a martial arts hall. And there was a particular owner of the martial arts business, and in the hall there was a big wrestling ring, and that's where I guess Walter Kowalski rented out that space for his school. So we walk in, and then Walter Kowalski, and we all know who he is, sitting in his chair, looks over and sees me and Joanie walk in, and he just shook his head, and you could see in his eyes that he knew there was something about her. I had a shiver down my, I still have a shiver down my spine now. Like he saw what I saw from the first time I met her and talked to her about doing her when we first hooked up to talk about doing her diet. There was something definitely there that radiated off of her, and she was destined for something. So they end up talking, and she's like, I don't know, maybe it's something I want to do. And he was a tenacious guy. He was like, you just do it. You don't talk about it, you just do it. She's like, okay, well, Walter, I'll think about it tonight, and I'll come back tomorrow. And he's like, you will do it. So we ended up going back the next day, and she signed up, and we started going to. Now we're going to wrestling a couple times a week for a couple hours. She's going to boxing for a couple hours a day or every other day. We're working out on a daily basis, her and I, every single day, her and I. She's doing extra stuff on the side with the step mill and the backpack. She's every single day there was something going on with this woman, and she all of a sudden decides that she really likes the wrestling. It's just something that took to her. And so we continue to go on a very frequent basis, and a lot of time I would go to most of her practices if I could, because I was working a few jobs, and I tried to rearrange my schedule so I could go with her. And we, not too surely long after she signed up, she took to the practice right away. That she was picking things up quick, and Walter wants to get her wrestling, but there was no female wrestlers at the time. So he didn't know what to do, because we really wanted to get her on the card and wrestle. And at the time, it didn't seem like it made sense for a woman to wrestle men. But there were, and for that matter, the guys were all huge. Like, she was 100, and at the time, I built her up at the time from 155 to about 170. And she got a lot bigger going forward, but she was about 170 at the time. And there was no guys that were just like 170. They were all like 200, 250, 300. So they had to literally dress up a kid like a chick. He weighed about 165 or so, dress him up with a wig and the whole 9 yards, and Walter decides to book Joanie's first wrestling match with this one kid. Snooky was his name. Dressed up like a chick. He looked like they put makeup on him and everything, and he looked like a muscular chick, like Joanie. And then now in wrestling, as you all know, there's two types. There's the face, which is the good guy, and the heel, which is the bad guy. Walter was pushing her as the face. So her gimmick was she would come out in this red, white, and blue, America type, bright suit with the flag, and she had her red hair, and she was like the good guy, and then the dude dressed up like the chick was the bad guy, and she would wrestle. Now, that first match went over like crazy, and word started getting around. Word started getting around fast, and it was kind of crazy. It was kind of scary how I knew it would. So we continued to hit the gym hard. Now I'm like, oh man, we got to put some more muscle on you. So we started pushing the weights like crazy, tweaking her diet, getting her even more like leaner and bigger and jacked, and pushing some serious weights. At one time, I remember she was bench pressing 315 for reps in this gym that we were going to. People, they didn't know what to make of it. So she starts doing these matches on a regular basis. Now she's still going to boxing every other day for physical conditioning. She's still doing all those other things we were doing in training and so on and so forth. And word started really getting around. And then all of a sudden, there was an opportunity for her to wrestle in Las Vegas with the world famous and the greats from back in the day. Believe it or not, there were some famous women wrestlers. Fabulous Moolah. There was a couple other ones. There's some well-known ladies down there wrestling in a big match, and they got Joanie on the card. Now, at some point, and I I know I'm jumping ahead here, but Walter decides to make her a heel now, a bad guy, and now everything's changed. Now she colors her hair black, starts wearing dark. She's more jacked now. Starts wearing dark clothes. We go to before the Las Vegas thing. We go to a match in New Hampshire, and she, for whatever reason, it clicks. She's a bad guy, and she starts getting crazy in the ring and insulting people in the audience to piss them off, to turn it around for them to hate her. And I can't explain it. People knew what the hell. They were like, who is this woman? So she ends up actually throwing around some guys in the ring, and then it was all over from there. So she ends up going down to the Vegas thing, and all of a sudden, right after that match, people are calling Walter Kowalski. I had phone calls going on in my house from people from the ECW at the time. They were looking for her. They were WWF, Shane McMahon. They were calling my house looking for Joanie. I'm like, all these opportunities, and it happened like that. So she one day says, Jerry, I have an idea. I'm gonna, first of all, she made a promotional video, a wrestling video, as a marketing, something for marketing. And I told her, you have to market yourself. So she decides she's gonna make a video, a compilation of all the things that her and I had been doing, spliced in with music, and she did it. She spent days on it. All day long, in fact, one day on this video, and did a really good job. And back then we only had VHSs, and we didn't have really video editing software and all that. She made this video, promotional video, and so she has this video and says, Jerry, I have an idea. The WWF are wrestling down in Connecticut tonight. I have an idea that I'm going to propose to this wrestler, Triple H. She had been kind of following a little bit of the wrestling. She goes, I'm gonna see if I can somehow talk to one of these guys as an idea of me being a female bodyguard, and I would come out with, because back when we were doing the little shows, there was bodyguards that would come out and managers that would come out, and it was a little part of gimmick of the thing. She goes, I'm gonna come out. I would come out and I would just throw the guys around, and I would be a menacing, big, jacked up woman who people wouldn't know what to make of me. And I'm gonna throw that idea out, and I'm gonna see what they're gonna say. I'm gonna bring my video, and she made a portfolio of pictures and various things as promotional proposal. She decides to drive down to Connecticut all by herself. I couldn't go with her that night because I had to work early the next day. I had clients, and I had to be at the gym really early. So she decides to drive all the way down there. She gets down there, and she was supposed to have had a meeting with this one of the executives. I forget his name. But she was supposed to have met up with this person who agreed to meet with her with her idea. From supposedly, he had a connection to the WWF at the time, and he was almost like a talent scout type guy with a little bit of a connection, and he was going to meet with her. Well, she got down there, and the guy took off. He didn't even wait for her, and he didn't even give her the time of day. So she decides she's going to wait. She goes, Jerry, I would have waited there all night long if I had to. So she waited in the lobby, and out walks Paul Levesque, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels coming from the match that was earlier that night. And she approaches them and says, listen, she introduced herself, and they right away they thought she was very sweet and nice, and she proposed the idea, and Paul right away thought it was a great idea. Sean did too. He says, but Paul said, I'll be honest, I don't think I'm gonna ask Shane what he thinks, and we'll see what happens. So Shane McMahon, I guess, really liked the idea, but his father didn't. He says it's not ever going to work. People aren't going to accept it. It's not going to be believable. People will hate it. But Paul and Sean kept at it. And Paul and Shane, rather, kept at it and adamantly kept pressing Vince McMahon about it because they thought it was an idea that would work. And then Vince was really apprehensive about it. So Paul decides to go to Vince and say, I'm going to take full responsibility for whether it fails or it's a success, and I just want you to take a chance on her, and if it's on me. If it doesn't work out, it's on me. So Paul ends up telling Joanie this, and he goes, I'm going to tell Vince it's on me, and Vince says, okay, it's on you, man. We're going to give this a try. So they set up the first time Joanie went in. It was at the Songus Arena, and that's the one we all know where she came out of the audience and grabbed Marlena and Goldust, and it was all over from there. Not all over, it was on from there. It blew up, and we all know the story from there on in. So, I simplified this quite a bit. I could go into the massive specifics of all the other intricacies involved and along the way in the 2 years, intertwining and in between all the things I just discussed, what she did, because it really was a lot. And then, of course, there's the relationship aspect of Joanie and I. But I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to leave that. That's between me and her upstairs. And I will say that it took me a lot of years to get over our breakup. But I literally remember the night that her and I went our separate ways and discussed it. I'm not going to lie, I had a hard time with it. But I knew it was for the best. And I knew I couldn't be selfish about it. And she was definitely destined for something. So, if you love something, you let it go. And then she went on, and we all know the story from there on in. And I kept in contact with her for the first 5 or 6 years while she was with Paul, and then everything going on in the height of her fame. We didn't communicate very much, but over the years we've kept in touch, and she, up until literally like a week before she passed away, she texted me. I don't even know how she got my phone number, but she ended up texting me, and again, I don't even want to get into any of that because that's irrelevant. It's not about me, it's about her. I just wanted you all to know that the woman that you all know, the amazing, trailblazing, impactful woman of power and prestige and everything we know that we've been following for all these years, all that started somewhere, and she worked her ass off to get in, for that matter, before all that even happened. So again, that's all on the mechanical end of things, as far as you see, but we all know that the person she was, all the things we've heard through particular interviews of different people, and she was she was a sweet person and a funny, goofy person. And I'll when I watch TV and I see all that, and I see on social media all the pictures and the videos and the magazines and all that, I don't see that person. I don't see that the amazing person you see. I just see the goofy 5'10" redhead who showed up that morning at the gym, and her and I had to talk about her diet. And that's all I ever see. So I appreciate you spending the time on here. I mean, again, I could go more and more into it, but there's a documentary coming out very soon. I don't know about in the 1 hour interview I did as far as a little bit of the stuff that I said. I don't know what will go on there. I just wanted you all to know a little bit of my end of the thing, of the story. Look for the documentary next year. It's going to be pretty awesome. I know they're really going to push it hard and try to get it on HBO. So, I mean, I'm thanking you for her, all the fans, for being amazing, because that made her happy. It really did. All right, I'm going to let you all go. Thank you for your time, everyone. And as Joanie would say to you, go green, get your fitness on, and stay healthy, because that's important.